Hello, this is Ed Cheng, and I'm coming to you live on June the 7th on Discipleship. And this week, one of the things I heard from the Lord is Matthew's 28:18-20. It's a famous verse on the Great Commission in the Bible. It says, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them." Uh, It starts out like this. Then Jesus came to them and said, let me just read it. All authority in heaven on earth has been given to me, heaven and earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Now, I've heard that read many times. I've memorized part of that verse, and it's really clear what Jesus had talked about in that command, the Great Commission. And Francis Chan said basically the church has taken that to mean that we need to study about the Great Commission, or to learn about the Great Commission, or to get together and talk about the Great Commission, but never do anything about the Great Commission. And that's sad. When we are asked to do something by Jesus, we need to just obey. Jesus didn't tell us to study about it, talk about it, have discussion forums, conferences, have church services about the Great Commission, but he said to go, to actually do it. And I was convicted when I heard this very, very brief message that Jesus commands us to go and make disciples. So there are 5 components. I've written it down in the title of this video. Basically, we are to go. That's the first thing. Then we're supposed to make disciples, and then we're gonna baptize. We're supposed to baptize people that we're discipling, and then we are also going to teach them obedience, teach them to obey the commands of Christ. And first and foremost, we need to be obeying the commands of Christ. If we're not going and we're not making disciples, and we're not baptizing anyone, then we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And how can we teach others to obey the commands of Christ? So this is very important. We need to actually be doing these things before we teach others to do the same. And then last, we are in partnership with Jesus, that we're not doing it alone, but we have his authority, we have his commission to go and make disciples. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to Jesus. So he gives us this command with full authority of the Father. I guess Jesus had the power and the authority from the Father, and he gives it to us to go and make disciples. So there's really no excuse for any Christian, any believer that has read that verse to not go and make disciples. So this is what I've been hearing from God. This is really big. And I know like I said, I've heard this verse read many times. I haven't sat in services where they taught on this verse. But what have I done about it in the last 20 years? Am I seeing the kind of fruit? And how many disciples have I made? I've been convicted. And I know that this is not something that I'm supposed to study or to listen to a message about, or to discuss with other people on how to do it, come up with strategies and all these whatnots. So many possibilities of what we can do with the verse like this. But actually making disciples, have I obeyed? Have I been obedient to Jesus on this? And I would have to say no. There's not much fruit on the vine. There's not many disciples that have been made. So I've come up with a totally different mindset on making disciples that are, I've listened to, let me just share with you what I've come to discover on how to make disciples and why I've been not fruitful in this area. Uh, I believe the main reason I've not been fruitful is I've been waiting for a particular strategy, or I've been trying to learn more about it, or I say that I may not be ready for it. And there's just blockages, one blockages after another. But now that I've gotten some basic steps, uh, and this is called Discipleship Made Easy. I'm just going to share with you 8 steps that I can do, and it doesn't have to be anything with like I have to see 10 disciples by this year that I've made. It's nothing like that. It's something that's easy, practical, that anyone can do. So number 1, pray for those around you. Number 2, be kind and approachable. That means that allow people to want to come. And number 3, be fruitful and spiritually successful. If you are not successful, you are not fruitful, why would anybody want to follow you? Remember, discipleship is about reproducing the life of Jesus that's in you, that people admire and that want, and they would want to have the same things. They would come alongside and want that for themselves. Number 4, invite others into a relationship. Number 5, practicality. Practicality means being available, making time and space to make disciples, or just making time and space for other people to become involved in your life. Number 6, look for discipleship opportunities, and that comes from going. Okay, command is to go. That's how we look for opportunities. Number 7, be patient. It could take some time, quite a bit of time, to make disciples. And number 8, practice spiritual-led discipleship. Okay, so really, there's no 2 people that are the same. There's no cookie cutter discipleship. That means people are different, and the way we approach them is going to be different. People have strongholds in their life, and sometimes we need to address these strongholds, and they're all different depending on the person. And if we can remove these habits, remove these strongholds, then that's the first step to discipleship. So those are the 8 steps that I'm going to be practicing, and they're easy. They're things that I can do, and I want to see what happens. So last thing, I think that's so important, especially for me, it's that if I am not bearing fruit, if I'm not a fruitful or successful in my personal life, in my personal walk with God, and people don't see Jesus in my life, but all they see is, habits, just like the rest of the world, and distraction and fruitlessness. If they see all of that and discouragement, why would they want to be discipled by someone like me? So this is very important, to make sure that you are a disciple, that I am a successful disciple, bearing fruits for Jesus, that I look like Jesus, that I bear the fruit of the Spirit, and that people would want what I have. So if I am financially distressed, I owe money, I have arguments with my wife, my family life is terrible, why would anybody want that? They probably have it already. So in order to make disciple, I believe that's the first step, to be walking as Jesus walked, to have that spirit of Jesus in you, the heart of Jesus in you, and to really look like Jesus. And if you have all of that, people would want it. So make sure you're living a blessed life and that you are successful and bearing fruit in your own personal life before you go ahead and make disciples. I'm not saying that you can't go and try while you're still working on yourself, but this is important, that people would want what you have. If people don't want what you have, you're not going to be able to attract anyone. So that's the word for today. So be blessed, be joyful, and have the fruit of the Spirit with you. Pray in tongues. Do whatever you need to do to encourage yourself to be like Jesus, to spend time with Jesus, and to look like Jesus so that you can make disciples. God bless you, and we'll talk more on the Great Commission